So we're going to talk now through the technical aspects of how to keep your kids safe on social media, on other digital platforms that they may be using. And I'm going to go through three that we use specifically with our kids. If you have an Android device, it's going to be slightly different, but I'm going to talk through on an Apple phone through Screen Time. I'm going to talk about another app that we use called Bark, B-A-R-K, and another that we use called Circle with Disney. And all three give you three different ways to protect your kids, and I'll try to go through those as well as how to basically use them as well. Let's start off with Bark. Bark is there to basically help you go through your kid's digital experience and alert you, or basically bark at you as a parent if you're going to see things that your kids are saying or participating in that might be harmful, or language, or things that they're saying or how they're feeling that you might be aware of, to talk to them through that. And so I'm putting on my screen here, bark.us is the website that you can get signed up. And basically for a small fee each month, you have the option to put these on your phones. You put it on your phone as a parent first, and then for your child's phone, you put that as well, and then you go through some procedures to back that up. Once it's backed up, every time you and your children are on the same Wi-Fi, you can back up their phones on your device and get a report. And basically what happens is, once that report comes, it's going to tell you a few things. Basically, here's some alerts, here's some things that we saw that you might want to talk about. They'll say this particular text message dealt with violence, or they were depressed in some of the things they said had some depression in it, or they were promoting violence. And some of those things, you're going to get alerts that may not be necessarily anything to worry about. Like one time I told my son, if you don't clean your room, I'm going to kick your butt. And it said, hey, you might want to watch this because somebody's talking violence. So sometimes you'll get an alert and it'll kind of scare you at first until you read it. But Bark is there to give you alerts and help you monitor. And basically, once you download it, you're going to see a little app here that looks like a dog. And all you do is, once you're ready to, once you're connected to the same Wi-Fi as your kids, you simply go and attempt a backup. And once that's done, you initially start it with a hardwire backup where you actually plug it to your computer. But then after that, it can all be done after Wi-Fi. The biggest thing that you need to know about Bark is like at least once a day or so, open up a laptop, make sure your kids are on the same Wi-Fi network, and run this. We have it set up, Lana and I, so that it alerts us simultaneously. So if I'm off somewhere and can't really address it or look at it, she's there to look at it for me. And this helps us maintain a little peace of mind and trust, to where if a text message is coming across to one of our kids that we feel like it's a good type or a good way for us to have a conversation. Hey, bud, I saw where you and so said this in a group chat. Can we talk about that? Most of the time it's harmless, but it gives you the opportunity as a parent to talk to your kids and have conversations. This doesn't necessarily monitor every keystroke your kids make. So if they make a comment that just says, ha ha, you're not going to get bombarded every single time they comment or text, but it will alert certain keywords and phrases, and you can control how strict you want that to be. You can say, don't alert me if it's a conversation I'm having with my kid, but please alert me if it's having these kind of keywords or buzzwords in there. And so we use Bark. We back up at least once a day. We get inside of those phones to make sure that nothing's happening that we don't need to talk to our kids about. The next app that we use is called Circle. And Circle is accessed through two ways. One, you have to buy a piece of equipment. It's just a little square box that comes in. You actually hook it to your Wi-Fi, and then you can subscribe to something called Circle at Home. And basically what that allows you to do is, its primary function is to limit things that your kids have access to and what they can access when they're on there. So let me give you an example. Through Circle, I can not only tell my phones and devices things that I have control with my cell phones, how long they can access certain things. But let's say your child has a PlayStation or an Xbox, and you don't necessarily have control over that. So you might block YouTube on a phone, but what's stopping them from getting on their PlayStation and viewing YouTube all day long? Circle, because that PlayStation or Xbox is connected through your internet, now you're allowed to add every single device. If it's connected to Wi-Fi at all, you can put that on your Circle account. And so I'm going to show you a little bit here about how we use that. As we log in, it shows both of my kids' accounts that we have on Circle. I'm going to go to Mackenzie's just for a minute because we were talking earlier about letting her get on with Instagram. And as you can see, I can go through and look at how long she's been on her phones. I have this one set filtered for teens. So it's automatically going to allow me to restrict YouTube. I can allow things like Amazon and Disney and FaceTime, but you'll see that overall I've denied Facebook, I've denied HBO and Hulu and some of those. And just recently I enabled her to have Instagram. And the reason that's important is if you set these to be not allowed, they can't even access them through any of their devices that you have connected to here. The other thing that you want to look for is you can set time limits for basically times of the day that you want them to access their devices. And again, screen time through Apple is going to allow you to do that, but not your kids are not always connected to an Apple device. So for instance, we gave a time limit on Instagram for 2 hours. You'll notice that here. And I can change that if I want to. And then at times, Kinsey can come to me and say, can I have a little bit more time? And all I simply do is go to reward, and I can either change it to where there's no bedtime if I have a certain time that it cuts off where no devices are able to get on at any time, or if I wanted to give an extra hour or so, I can go through and reward Kinsey an existing reward and give her whatever I would like to for that. And so this allows you to have more control over every device that comes on in your home. If you have a smart TV, any of those things that you want to restrict, Circle and then using their Circle at Home product allows you to do that. The last thing we're going to talk about is how to use Apple devices to help keep things a little more secure, especially if you have iOS. There are some Android apps out there. I don't use Android a lot, so forgive me. I'm going to just talk mainly through Apple. But screen time is a way for you to keep your kids' devices maintained and set limits the same way we talked a little bit through Circle and through Bark. Primarily what you want to do first of all is have a family plan to where you as the adult are the master plan of that, and then you allow your kids access based on their birth dates to a family plan. One of the things that we've done forever, and it can be a bit annoying, but it's so worth it at the end, is our kids cannot download any apps without asking us permission as parents. So especially during this shutdown time where we're home with our kids, we might get notifications 10 to 15 a day of things that they want to play, games. And it is annoying as heck, but it's so worth it. I'd rather be a little inconvenienced than to have to worry about my kids just having free reign for whatever app. So when that happens, we get a notification, either myself or Lana, we either approve or deny it. Once we approve it, they get a notification on their phone saying it's been approved, they can download it. But even inside of that, we want to talk through how screen time works. But you're going to see 4 or 5 different views that you can get into to change things. One is called Downtime, which means if you go into this setting, you can literally shut your children's phones off, or say at a certain time, we don't want you to be able to get on the device at all. I'm not going to do that now because I don't want 2 mad kids at me. So we're going to leave that alone. This is time limit for app limits, how long they're allowed to actually be on certain apps. Communication allows you to say, if you're during downtime, these are the people that your children are allowed to call no matter what. And that way you can restrict if somebody's not in that contact book, you can keep them from calling or them calling your children. There's a feature called Always Allow, which basically means while we're down in a downtime mode, they can always text us or FaceTime us. We don't want them to be restricted for that. And then the most important one that I deal with a lot is content and privacy restrictions. This allows you specifically to get in and say, for example, when it comes to TV shows, if my kid watches them, I want them to be PG rated. If I want to go to explicit language, that's not allowed. If I want to limit movies by ratings, I can do that as well. And so you'll want to spend some time taking care of that part, because that's really how you manage to what degree your kids can have access to that. Sometimes it gets a little cumbersome. At some regards, Circle is very similar to what you're going to find with Apple. And sometimes I've had to even with the Instagram video, or what I did earlier when we allowed kids to have Instagram, I had to go through multiple platforms to release that security. That can be annoying. But again, would you rather have the annoyance issue of having to deal with a few apps, or would you have a little bit more peace of mind that at the end of the day, you're doing everything that you can to keep your kids safe? There's no surefire way. There's going to be loopholes. There's going to be things that your kids can do to get around that. But our job as a parent is to put as many barriers to entry as we can to keep our kids safe. This is a tough time. It's tough for parents, and we don't really know if we're ever doing it the right way, but we can try our best to put things in their way to keep them from being exposed to things that they're not quite ready to see or view or hear yet. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed these. We'll try to put out some more tips as we go. Please stay safe. Talk to you soon.